Thank you everyone for tuning in today. Today, I have a very special guest with me in Rebecca O'Brien. Rebecca is currently a stress management and burnout prevention coach, where she helps professionals from all around the globe live happier, healthier, and more successful lives. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Rebecca. Rebecca, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thanks so much. So happy to be here.
Yeah, we're super happy to have you. To go ahead and get started with the interview, I think if you could give a little introduction of yourself, who you are, where you're from, just a brief background about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Rebecca. I help professionals reduce stress, avoid burnout, and create sustainable success. And just like you said, I'm a burnout prevention coach. I studied to health and wellness coach and mindfulness teacher as well. And I've actually been through burnout myself. I was sick in 2014. I know we're going to get into that, but I was sick for about 2 years. So with that experience, that is definitely the main part that has driven me to really want to help people. And, I made a commitment to myself to not let anyone else go through what I struggled through and what I had to go through, because you don't want that for anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know a little bit more, but could you possibly share with everyone watching today just about your story and the experiences that you had with burnout, and then from there, how did it kind of change your mindset and the way you live?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm in Stockholm now. I know we've spoke about that before, our travels and worldwide. But I spent a lot of time, I grew up in California and San Jose, spent a lot of time there and still do. So I kind of pop back and forth from Stockholm to San Francisco now. And really, it was after college that I started my career in sales and marketing, and moved around Europe and for different jobs, and really just focused on the fast train, focusing on my career, ticking all the boxes, getting everything done on my CV, which I did. But was I really happy with that? Honestly, no. And it's one of the things that led me to my burnout. um, I was living life and thinking everything was fantastic, taking care of my health, and taking care of myself, which I thought, kind of thought I was doing. But that showed up very quickly then in 2014 that I actually wasn't. So I changed my life completely, and completely after my burnout. Things had to change, very drastically.
Yeah, and then in regards to the
My
burnout itself, what was that kind of like for you? How were you feeling every day? What were you kind of going through in that?
I mean, the burnout itself, for me, I was diagnosed with mental and physical burnout as well as depression. And for me, leading up with this, I was pushing myself so far, and, no boundaries whatsoever. It was basically a mix of both, work, of not dealing with things, personally and in my life, not healing, not being connected, mind, body, soul, really bad relationship as well at the very end. So it was definitely a few things that led up to this. When I actually got diagnosed, I couldn't get out of bed like the very next day after I called my boss and said, listen, I'm actually not going to be coming into work. And I thought it was going to be something like, I'll be at home for 3-4 weeks. It'll be short, this will fly by. I'll be back, no problem. But I know after I called my boss, I was basically in bed, and I couldn't move physically. I couldn't, cook any foods. I couldn't do anything. So my parents actually had to come and pick me up after like 3 days, and I had to move in with them. So with that, it was just a matter of healing. I slept a lot because, of course, everything within my internal system was so worn out, cortisol levels. We can go into real details there, but basically just, burnt out body sense physically.
Yeah, crazy. And while you're kind
Mm,
of going through this experience, what are you thinking about? Like before, I mean, on paper, you were living your life, pushing yourself
mhm,
forward professionally, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, it just seemed like your body couldn't take it anymore. What was kind of going through your mind
mm.
at that time, and what did it kind of make you realize in a sense?
Um, Really great question with this, because I know this was so difficult, both mentally and physically for me. Um, I hit rock bottom, of course, but it was also lying in my bed, for 23 hours a day, that I definitely hit rock bottom, because I was at such a place, and so such a spiral down into a black hole, where I didn't actually know if I was going to wake up the next day and if I wanted to. Um, in that sense, I remember it so clearly as well, because it was really one word of acceptance that came to me and that came to mind, that I needed to really accept where I was right here, right now. I couldn't think of, the million questions going through my mind of what's happening, how long am I going to be here, how long is healing going to take, what am I going to do after, what's happening with my job, bills, everything else. um, I just really gave myself a chance to surrender and really let go and just accept, okay, let's just get through this, hour by hour, day by day.
Yeah, and I definitely say that probably from that experience, you learned something that has been
Mhm.
super helpful in your life. I mean, just the fact of understanding there are a lot of things that you know come across our lives and
Mm,
we don't really understand, but it's a matter of accepting what we have been given, just kind of making the best of it. And
yeah.
I definitely know we'll get further
Yeah.
into it later in the interview, but you've definitely made the most of this entire experience and are helping a lot of people try to go ahead and solve this. So I think you've definitely done a
Mm.
good job with that. So
Yeah, yeah, no, thank you. I mean, it really is of a mindset. I think anyone that has gone through such a uh, traumatic, experience, or things that happen in our life, with really just, switch everything. And if it's near death experiences, or something unfortunate with, cancer battles, or whatever it may be, you just really come out of there. I can speak for myself, with gratitude and perspective on everything. Like, I know we've spoken about before, like it just really breaks everything down to, I'm grateful and thankful I have a roof over my head, and, food in my stomach, and, a bed to sleep in every night. So with that sense, it really turned everything around, and I had to relearn, many things as well within myself, and self care and self love and self mastery, and really the self awareness.
yeah, absolutely. And also, in regards to you being in bed, was it a matter of like your mind was just telling yourself, no, like I don't want to get up, or is it also a matter of like your body that's like being physically like so weak and drained that it was just like I can't do this?
Yeah, that was really scary, actually. And great that you say that, because it was the two kind of, they were fighting each other, of course. And it was really weird because I can say, thankfully, I've never experienced anything like that before. I've never, been in hospital. I've never had any sicknesses, with that sense. But lying there and, thoughts going through my head, okay, I need to get up and I need to, take 3 steps to go over to the bathroom or to pick up my clothes from the floor and get dressed again. um, that was a complete nightmare. Like, that was so incredibly difficult. And I couldn't. And it was really a matter of, again, okay, acceptance here. I can't do this. Let's just lay in bed, take it for what it is and surrender and let go at that point.
Yeah. And I think that earlier you brought upon a really important point in the fact of you were just working to go ahead and tick things off your CV in a sense,
Yeah.
and especially with young people from my experience, it's just always, what can I do now? Even though I may
Mm.
be running myself like crazy, so I could set myself up for success in the future and things along those lines. Through this experience, what would you say you kind of learned about just sustainability in your everyday practices and what you do?
Mm. I mean, I really learned that it is so important with these practices. And these practices, not only where people say, eat healthy and go to the gym and that, because I did that as well. And I've always thought that I've lived a quite healthy life, with that sense. But it was such a deeper question of really healing myself from the inside and out, and really getting to know myself with understanding the boundaries. Like I said before, that self respect and that self worth of setting boundaries to, that can be for a matter of gaining more time, having more energy, saying no to certain things, saying no to certain people, or if it is with a part of your job. Um, Definitely knowing those, also with living, I would say, here and now with mindfulness has been such an awakening for me. And that was something I went in after my burnout. I didn't have that with me from healing, but that has been a habit that I have, and teach my clients now, of looking at John Kabat-Zinn practices and has set the 9 attitudes of mindfulness and lives by them. And they are fantastic in really bringing awareness to the moment here and now and living in that moment with presence. Um, so that has definitely been a big thing for me. And like I said, self mastery, I've, mentioned that before. But also with the habits, I mean, it is still important with food, and it's still important, with sleep, time to unplug with our phones in that sense as well. Um, Habits are very, very, very important when it looks at really breaking down your everyday and how are you going to be sustainable for the future and things to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that you've kind of had this experience, obviously now today you're in a much different place than you were when you were going through all of this. How do you find yourself to keep the stress, anxiety, and this overall burnout kind of like away from you, just in what you do daily? I know you briefly touched upon it, but if you could maybe elaborate a little bit more about just what you do every single day.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, I mean, it's funny with that because I actually have, this my little inside joke of the stress management coach is stressed because it's not that thing, it doesn't disappear, we still have this, we still, we can still, I have bad days, I have low days. Um, the change now is though that I notice it immediately. I know where it's coming from, and I know how to take care of it based on how small it is or how big it is. And I will immediately go in with tools that help myself. And on a daily, it can really be, looking at a mindful work day of how I work. Um, that can include, with breaks, screen time, doing some exercise. I meditate in the morning as well. Oh, sorry. I think that was my battery. Sorry.
All good, all good.
Meditation, I do meditation in the morning. It's also, with habits, I said healthy food as well. And really just taking a break for rest. I always say if there's one thing I could only give away or like with a tip to someone, it is definitely prioritize your rest and relaxation.
Mm.
And of course, relaxation time, that can be so different for everyone. Um, I have my three things that I do. And of course, one of them is, going out and walking in nature, going for a long walk. That is one of my favorite things to do. With this, though, you have people, sitting in an office and sitting down all day. Um, their relaxation might be, going for a run, 30-minute, an hour run after work. That might be their, really me time and self-care time. While someone that's on, a building site or, working construction, they might actually need to go home and take a nap or, go home and lay down and just read a book for an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a matter of like looking at each individual case and kind of
Yeah,
finding your own happy place because it's
yeah,
not one size fits all. It's, what makes you happy. So I think that's an
exactly.
important thing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And then another question or another point that I think was really important for everyone tuning in. It's not a matter of as you get better with this keeping positive to kind of reduce stress, anxiety. It's not like that never comes in, correct? It's something that will always try to peek its way in. It's just a matter of how well you can control it and the systems you have in place to combat that.
Yeah, yeah. And it's definitely of this, like I said, I use the term, self mastery, but self awareness it is of knowing exactly, what triggers you or what comes from outside. It can be different situations. It can also be different people. It can be, stepping outside your comfort zone. You're, about to, start a new challenge or something like that. And with this, our body, historically and biologically, it's there for a reason, and it's there to actually, rise up to a challenge. Or let's say if you have a speaking engagement, that you're about to do. And when your brain and body are communicating with each other, they are still, it's still the same, communication and sorry, what you call it, hormones that are communicating back and forth. Where if it is a perceived threat, that it was, a bear chasing you 100 years ago, is exactly the same when you're going to get, up on stage and talk. You might, feel the butterflies in your stomach, and, your palms get it sweaty, and, blood rushes to your larger muscle groups, and your heart is pounding more and your pulse is up. So just to be aware of what is actually happening in your body and what triggers you, and to also be okay with that, to not be, fighting it or running away with it or like pushing it down, I don't have time for this now, or no, this is not, this is not supposed to happen right now. Because of course then it will um, explode even more and be even stronger, because it's essentially your body is trying to tell you something.
Yeah.
So
And I,
definitely of getting to know yourself and what triggers you and how you can both soothe it and just take care of it, like take care of yourself and be able to um calm yourself in if that is a situation, or before you are speaking, going to speak on stage, is it a little 2-3 minute meditation you have to do for yourself in that sense?
yeah. And one thing I would love to talk a little bit more about are the triggers. You said it's super important for people to identify these so they can look forward and therefore forecast possible problems coming ahead. Um,
Mm.
Two questions. First one is, what are maybe some triggers that you have in your life that you've identified? And then for other people out there that want to identify the triggers, how can they find these triggers in their everyday lives?
Mm. So for me, what triggers me is I can definitely get stressed around time, and I know that. So I definitely plan in a certain way, and also make sure I'm not getting too overwhelmed in my business. I will do, very short to-do lists, and, write 3 things. And as soon as I'm done with them, check them off, and then I can write another 3 things. Um, Energy can really trigger me with meeting someone else or a new person, or someone where I feel their energy a lot, because I'm an empath and I feel, everything. Um, but I know that I know that now, and I know where that is coming from. And I know if I'm feeling something in myself, later that day, or let's say I've had a couple of meetings that day, or out, having a workshop in a company, I know to also just check in with myself to see, is this energy triggering me? Is it my energy, or is it actually energy, outside ourselves? Because we're all walking around with different energy within ourselves. So that part is alignment for sure, and alignment, with me and the inner core me.
Hmm.
Um, so that answered, I think that's that for the first question. And then your second question, just if you could just repeat that one. What was the next one,
Yeah, the next
please?
question was for anybody that's listening out there, maybe they want to identify some triggers in their life that are causing them anxiety, stress, or anything along those lines.
Yeah.
How would you go ahead? I know you kind of touched upon it being, present within yourself, but what are some ways that people can use to identify, "Oh, okay, this specific act tends to cause me stress. So maybe I either change
Mm.
the way I'm specifically acting or I'm just mindful of that and give myself more breaks," or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I mean, it definitely goes with, just like you said, situations or examples. It can also be with symptoms, if you're looking at that and seeing how are you feeling after certain things you're doing in your day or in your life. I mean, a lot of triggers can also come from, relationships. It doesn't have to be just work focused or at school. It can also be with relationships. It can come from outside, other things of, travel, whatever, it is that you think you enjoy, but you're actually not feeling the enjoyment of it afterwards. And it's just really something to be mindful. And I think um, just to be okay with questioning that, and not questioning it in a sense of a negativity, but questioning yourself of, you know um, is this something I need to set a boundary on, or is this something where I feel a symptom of headaches is coming and I suffer from that, or I have a symptom of mood swings when I feel I've driven, all around town all day. that can be something, to really just be on the lookout for and awake to it.
Yeah, and I love that point of reflecting upon yourself because there are sometimes even things that you may think you love and really enjoy to do,
Yeah.
but then as you finish them, you're all stressed and wound up and everything.
Yeah.
And that's I think especially with your case, that's kind of where it all came in because it was something that on the surface you thought was completely fine, but it just
Mm,
continued to build and build and build until it hit this wall.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Because that's ultimately with burnout, especially with when I say, it's so important with the symptoms because they are telling you, they are messengers to your body and trying to communicate with you what is good and what is not. And I thought it was, completely okay to be, have my headaches, have nausea, have stomach aches. Hair loss was extreme. But, even with the cognitive symptoms I had with memory and focus, and difficult to concentrate, even with that, I really didn't understand that this could actually be stress symptoms. And especially with, mood swings and irritation, I thought this was kind of just a part of life and a part of what's happening in my career. And I should just, dig in deeper and, continue on the fast train and just go for it. Cause this is something that, needs to be included in a successful life.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
And I know one thing that we've talked about in depth about is unfortunately we see a lot more young kids these days have
Yeah.
more stress, anxiety, depression, all these things. And for let's say a young person that's watching right here, right now, I know we've kind of talked a bit about it, but what would you suggest for them so that they could get started today and hopefully eliminate these things that plague them every day?
Um, I mean, I definitely suggest of looking into your own like self-care and self-awareness of what you have, and actually perhaps something that you need to work on because it is a lot of reflecting on your self-worth and self-love and where are you within yourself, and that might be necessary to do some healing as well, because one thing that I can definitely say now, if you're young and you are not, not feeling okay, and you are feel that there are certain situations in your life that you need to heal, I would definitely reach out now rather than in 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, because that will just escalate and get bigger and bigger and bigger and be of a complete mental breakdown that you see, of people of 40, 50, 60 years today. Um, and I wish I had done that as well. I definitely wish I had done that because I know a lot of that came up from my burnout, in that sense. So don't be afraid to reach out and don't be afraid to think that, something, don't think that something is wrong with you, or, that it's just you feeling this way or just you having problems, because it is really not. We all go through, really tough times with this and with life, and what you're actually experiencing in life and what your life has been ideally growing up. So I'd say just really get in tune with yourself, and then habits, and then, of course, setting boundaries and really understanding your boundaries and where you would like to set them, to really respect yourself.
Yeah. And I definitely say one very powerful thing that you said was just reach out. because a lot of times
Yeah.
today I feel like there's a stigma behind,
Yes.
these mental health things, and nobody's really talking about it. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, this is only getting worse and worse every single year. So
Mm,
I think, just to really echo exactly what you said,
mm.
it's a matter, because it's a very scary thing, initially reaching out and saying, look,
Yeah.
I'm having problems, I'm not okay. But I think it's vitally important, as you said, to reach out now and try to go ahead and just talk to people.
Yes.
People like
Mm.
yourself, just other people in your community, because if you don't, as you said, it cascades into something bigger and bigger and bigger that becomes,
Yeah.
a problem of your size. If not, unfortunately,
Mm.
sometimes it gets even worse, you know?
Oh,
So I
yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
a super important thing.
Mm. It is. Yeah. And I mean, great point and great um, clarity, on what you said, because there's so many of us, and I understand now that I was one of them as well, where we're completely shut off. We're shut off from here down, and we're just walking around in our heads, and we're walking around in like a zombie state of just completely numb here because we don't want to feel anything, we don't really want to go there, and trying to live life that way with all that, and all the joyful things that will happen in life with relationships and careers, and if it's kids and marriage and travel. And essentially you are not present, and you are not present and aligned in that. And that's really, I can say now that it's such, there's no way to live, and you don't have to live like that. That's what's so amazing. You actually do not have to walk around feeling like crap and being upset and worried about your job, or feeling worthless or lonely. um it just takes a message, or pick up the phone or text someone, just to really reach out and say, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to be held back by these things, where you can easily fix them and
Yeah.
get support and get tools and just get a simple help with them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, to briefly touch, I mean, this could be a whole conversation on its own, but presence, especially with
Yeah.
social media today, it's always the past, the future, what somebody else is doing. But it's
Yeah.
so important to have that presence within yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, with social media today, it it's very scary. I am one that did not grow up with it. I'm thankful for that, but of course, we can't just turn a blind eye and see all the other generations growing up with that, because it does affect, and it is affecting both with health and mental health. Confidence, self-worth, getting these dopamine feeds of likes and being there, and trying to find self-worth outside, and outside, perhaps within social media, and the online world, instead of really of what is here now. And that's a difficult one, because I get it. Other younger peeps and the generation before, they've grown up with this, and had a phone in their hands since what they were 6, 7, 8 years old now. So it's many years. Definitely something to just reflect on, and really what is important at the end of the day. I think it's definitely about the perspective. And there's no, I mean, it's not even worth thinking about what other people think of you, or trying to see that, and that have a voice, or they have a voice online, because they don't know you. Like, this is people behind a screen and behind a computer, that they don't know you. They aren't living your life. They don't, know your beliefs, values, hopes, and dreams. So I think I would love to see more of a set, trying to unplug from that and making it a habit to, take breaks from your phone, but also, making it a habit of really reflecting and understanding your both with self-worth and self-awareness.
Yeah. And I think that with social media, we could probably have a whole a whole nother conversation just only
I
about
know.
that. Maybe
Yeah.
sometime in the future we can go ahead and have that together too.
Yeah.
But to kind of
Yeah.
wrap all this up, I would love for you to share about what you're doing with your work, and what you kind of do with all your clients now.
Yeah, I mean, I work, thankfully, I do both where I have coaching online and have one to one clients. I also work with corporate companies and do workshops in that sense, or go out to for speaking engagement, especially looking at culture within our corporate industries. But right now, I have just launched again a new program into empowerment. Coaching program is 3 months. And I have a 3 months really to work through, 5 steps of self mastery, mindfulness, powerful habits, unbreakable boundaries, and then alignment of all the steps to, create a sustainable success and really create peace of mind for you. I want people to live a life with peace and joy and do the things that truly matter to them and have time, have that time and energy to focus on what is really important to them. That's what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that. Um, I know that there was one thing you wanted to go ahead and say to the audience as we go ahead and
Yeah,
final
yes,
regards and wrap it up.
exactly. Yes, thank you. Because I really want to offer your listeners and the people watching, your guests, that they are more than welcome to reach out to me. I want to offer them, a free 40-minute call, a breakthrough call, clarity call, to actually really see what they are struggling with, have a chance for them to reach out, speak to me about, if it's anxiety or stress, any things that they need support in with their mental wellness.
Yeah, and to anybody listening, I couldn't recommend Rebecca higher. She's an amazing person doing some
Thank you.
amazing work out there. So if you're struggling with anything, please be sure to reach out to her. Or even if everything's all fine and dandy, might not be a bad idea to reach out to her because there might be an underlying problem, just as Rebecca we've talked about today. That might be very much worth talking about and exploring within yourself. So
It is. It is. It's definitely and definitely. Oh, sorry. It is definitely a great starting point. And I will send you the link so they can just click and book a time with them that suits them both with day and time, and they can then speak to me directly.
perfect. And I'll go ahead, I'll put that link down in the description. People can go ahead and click on that. I'll also include your LinkedIn or something like that. So maybe people can check you out, see some of
Yeah,
the
for
work that you're
sure.
doing, and yeah, get connected with you.
Yeah, they can message me there as well. That'd be fantastic.
Perfect. Well, with that being said, Rebecca, thank you so much for tuning in today with us. It was a pleasure to
Thank,
have you. Amazing to hear your story and all your insight and advice, and wishing you all the best.
thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, with that being said, that's wrapping up the interview. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Hope you have a great day and living a happy and healthy life.